Welcome, everyone, to the April edition of Conversations with Archbishop Kurtz. Archbishop, we're back here at St. X High School.
You know what a great campus and what a great program we're going to have this month.
We're always glad to have you with us, and anytime you have a question or a comment or a concern, you can write to us at conversations@archlu.org. Now, our three segments today, we're going to talk in a minute about the Record newspaper and our wonderful new editor. We're going to talk with Father Chuck Walker. Archbishop will be conversing with him about his new role. He started last year as our full-time chaplain at University of Louisville. And then we're going to have a chance for the Archbishop to give all the Catholic community his Easter message. So thanks for being with us. Our guest, Marnie McAllister, is our new editor of the Record. The Record goes back over 130 years. You haven't been here that long, but you've been with us for over a decade, but you're the first woman to lead the Record after a long history of editors before you, and we're proud of that, but mostly we're proud to have you with us today. So can you take a minute to introduce yourself? I know we know you, but the community might not. A little bit about Marnie McAllister.
Sure. I'm actually a native of Louisville, but I grew up in South Georgia. I went on to Belmont Abbey College in North Carolina. I was educated by Benedictine monks and plenty of other lay people. Yeah. And it was a great liberal arts education. So I really focused on writing, theology, philosophy, and was well formed, I think, for this work. I went on to work at a newspaper in North Carolina initially, but I very quickly realized that I really was called to blend my interest in journalism with the things that really mattered to me. And that's what I found at the Record.
Tell us about we'll get to the Record in a second, but tell us about the interest in journalism. What sparked that, and did that go back to young years, or is something that surfaced in college?
I always read the paper growing up, and I was very interested in it. And we actually received the Record down there in Georgia because it had a great reputation in our house. And so I was always a news consumer, but it wasn't until college when it just became clear that writing was something I didn't dread at all. I loved it. So, and I just segued right from that into the Gaston Gazette near Belmont, where the college was.
Very good.
So your mom and dad didn't say, Marnie, look at the Record, someday you're going to be the editor.
No.
No, I should say this. Marnie and I were together last summer down in Charlotte, and it was for the Catholic Press Association meeting, and it was like old home week for you, wasn't
it? Was.
Yeah.
It was.
Well, one of the things we're eager to hear about is here in Louisville, you've become an integral part of the life of Louisville and certainly the life of the Catholic Church here in the Archdiocese. Tell us a little bit about that involvement that you have in the local diocese and Archdiocese and in the life of Louisville.
Well, I feel very plugged into the Catholic life in Louisville. Mm-hmm. My first impression, I think, is probably the most accurate way to describe it, but when I moved here initially, my friends from Georgia and North Carolina would say, you know, what's it like? Do you enjoy it? And I just kept gushing about how great the people are. Yeah. And it took me a little while to realize I was meeting, through the Record, the people who worked in our parishes, in our schools, our social service agencies, and the people, parishioners, who volunteer everywhere and just live their faith and live their lives for other people. And those have become my friends, my community, and it's an amazing town.
Brian, I often will of course see Marnie at these various events, and I will make one observation. Mm-hmm. You never seem to go as kind of a disinterested person. You're engaged. You're engaged in the process, and I see that with your love of the church, your love of the people. So we're really very blessed to have you in your role.
Thank you.
I'm going to get both of you to answer a question, because you're going to have a different angle. How important is the Record to our church? I have my own opinion, but both of you want to hear
who wants to go first?
I'm biased.
Oh, you're the editor, so you go first.
Go for it, and then I can add to that.
I hear from people all the time about how important it is, whether it's trying to find out when they can get to a certain retreat, or share the news about how they can help with something really important maybe happening with our homeless community. Mm-hmm. So it runs the gamut from the very smallest things, the small spiritual needs, devotional needs of our people, to the needs of the broader community. And I think it really ensures that people are well informed.
Yeah. You know, Brian, I'll add to that, because I think you're right, Marnie. I'll use the word trust. I get the sense that people, and maybe for decades now, say we trust the record. We know that when we read the record, we not only find out about what's happening here locally, but also we find out about the life of the church. And I think that great trust has been built. You mentioned the many editors that we were blessed to have, and how many years is it?
135 years.
135 years.
Yeah.
So when you think of that history, I think there's been a sense of trust built, and somehow it gets passed on to the present generation. There's something great about the record.
You know, I'm lucky. I'm sitting here. I got the editor and I got the publisher, both with me. So tell me.
And listen, and 3 readers.
Yeah. Okay, now Marnie, the record's also been going through some changing. It's been growing up in the modern era in the last, since you've come, really. So tell us about some new developments of the record.
Sure. We entered the technological age in 2011.
Okay.
And we began with a digital edition, which is an online version of the print edition. It looks just like the print paper. And that's been around for a few years.
It's
and
very user-friendly.
It is.
Very
I'm glad
much
to
so.
hear
I'm
you say
amazed
that.
at that, yeah.
And that's at erecord.archlou.org. We also added a website, which has been a great tool for us. We could add information as it happens. When you were elected president of the USCCB, we had a story up within a couple of minutes, and we're able to share that on Facebook and Twitter to get the word out to everyone. And that election was very fast.
It was, yes. Let me say this, maybe we can put that up on the screen.
Yeah, there was
that information.
advertising.
What was the citation you gave on people?
The digital edition is at erecord.archlou.org, and our website is therecordnewspaper.org.
Very good. Now talk about going forward. There's a lot of debate about the future of newspapers and journalism and so forth. As you look to the future, have you a chance to think about that in the first few months as editor? Where are we going? What's the future about?
I think what we're doing online is going to be always going to continue to be important and more important. I know from our readership survey from 2010 that it's still important that we have a print edition going forward. I don't know how that will look in a decade from now or longer, but in the near future, it's still important to have print and online. But more and more, we're putting resources to our website, and we're looking forward to maybe a new version of that sometime in the future.
We've done some great, research about the local church and the newspaper. The Record is one of the most recognizable names or images for Catholic community. They see that, they all know what that is. And even those who are not connected with us say, that's the Record, they know the name. Perhaps that's a good way to ask the question about the Record and evangelization, because that's where the topic fits together, I think, for why we're doing a newspaper.
Absolutely. I think in many ways, the Record, as you said, has that recognizable approach, and it wasn't the study that was done that there's the same readership as far as the number of people, maybe the length of time we spend on it is less, but it's the announcing of the good news. I'd love to hear from you, Marnie, as far as how do you see the Record as each edition announcing the good news of Jesus Christ?
Well, that's what we hope to do in every edition.
Yeah.
I feel like we do it at a lot of different levels, from what the Archdiocese is doing to what our parishes are doing to what individuals are doing, either through programs and presentations, just educational items, to the physical work they do with our social service agencies, to religious education and our schools. Our schools are a big part of evangelizing the next generation, and so our coverage of schools is really critical to what we do. I think that might be probably the most important aspect of what we do every week.
Brian, one of the things that I know Cecilia Price introduced some time ago was this notion of the teaching editorials too, and having guest people come in who are experts in a particular area. And I've gotten some good feedback about that, Marnie.
How about you being the editor now, doing your own editorials? That you started a few months ago, and without a doubt, we were so excited you could do that. But tell us about you being an editorial writer now, because I know that's one of the new things. And so the teaching editorials and our editor. Can I ask you to wrap us up with that story?
Sure. To definitely the biggest challenge.
Okay.
It's been a big transition because as a reporter, as a journalist, you don't insert your view. And as the editor, it's my job to insert, to really clarify and make clear the church's point of view on a lot of different subjects. So it's been hard to write in that way, but it's also been interesting and fun. And the variety of topics that come up have really been eye-opening.
Well, without a doubt, you make us proud. You do, and you've been a
You
real
sure
gift.
do, Marnie. We're very, very lucky and blessed to have you as the editor.
Thank you very much.
We're so pleased to have this opportunity to introduce the whole community, locally and beyond, to our editor of the Record newspaper here in Louisville, and we'll be back in the next segment when Archbishop Kurtz is going to interview Father Chuck Walker. So stay tuned, we'll be right back.